Tango's down, Tango's down. We got him!
From predicting Osama bin Laden's death 7 months before it happened, to outing Ricky Martin a whole decade before he revealed it to the public, here are some of South Park predictions that came true. Starting with the freakishly accurate portrayal of OBL's death. Sure, it's not the only South Park episode to predict how Osama bin Laden would die, but it's one that got the details a little too right. It's episode It's a Jersey Thing from season 14. The most wanted criminal plays a little role in the main plot of this episode, which involves a group of Jersey Shore-like characters visiting South Park and turning the entire place into a spoof of the well-known MTV reality show. By the way, this was also the last episode to include the recurring joke about Osama bin Laden getting shot in the head, since he was a South Park character like Kenny who'd appeared to die and then come back to life. And guess what? An attack on bin Laden's compound by Navy SEALs resulted in his death from a head wound less than a year later after It's a Jersey Thing aired. Yup. In the episode, we see a Special Forces commando emerge from the ceiling and kill bin Laden by shooting him in the head at the end of the episode. Exactly 7 months after this program aired, on May 2nd, 2011, SEALs did in fact kill bin Laden in the exact same way. Freaky, right? Did you know what's freakier? The way creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone can predict celebrity behavior. I mean, they did it once with Mel Gibson. Since Mel Gibson was detained in for a DUI and yelled anti-Semitic slurs at the arresting officer, his reputation in Hollywood has never entirely recovered. Then, a new video came to light, showing the actor abusing his former partner, Oksana Grigorieva. Controversy has dogged his personal life ever since, but if the season 8 episode The Passion of the Jew is any indication, Gibson had all the markings of an erratic celebrity, at least to South Park writers. In an episode that aired 2 years before the actor's imprisonment, the show discussed reactions to the popularity of Gibson's film, The Passion of the Christ. Kyle is furious with Gibson's movie in The Passion of the Jew, and he demands his money back. But the filmmaker refuses and starts doing the most bizarre things instead. This version of Gibson, who's obviously insane, enjoys dancing around semi-naked while twisting his own nipples and playing with his poop. But what really stands out is how Gibson, long before his prejudiced views were exposed in real life, purposefully incites anti-Semitism in this episode and his later appearances on the show. Sadly, Mel Gibson was portrayed pretty accurately by South Park, despite the fact that when this episode came out, it counted as defamation. Since then, controversy has surrounded Gibson's private life. But I'm just shocked at Parker and Stone's ability to know which celebrity will act out, because they did it again with Miley Cyrus. Pop diva Miley Cyrus often makes headlines for stirring up trouble, but back then, the young singer was still seen as quite innocent and harmless. Sure, after a few leaked photographs and her topless Vanity Fair shoot, hints about Hannah Montana's future started to surface that year. But nobody could have imagined how far she would go. Aside from South Park, of course. In season 12, the episode Britney's New Look parodied how cruelly the media handled Spears after her 2007 breakdown. It really is an eye-opening and chilling episode, even if they wrap it all up in a bundle of craziness. Anyway, it's revealed at the end of the episode that Britney was driven to the point of death as a part of a ritual required to produce a strong maize crop. Insane, right? After her passing, a newscaster highlights Miley Cyrus, suggesting that she's emerging as the next big pop star and dropping hints that she'll be the next person the media focuses on. Surprise, surprise, her career did explode shortly after, as the episode foretold, and some of her fans were turned off by her quick image changes and stylistic experiments. Cyrus suffered very harsh media scrutiny in 2013 and throughout 2014, with many sensationalized articles and stories around her, much like what happened with Spears. But unlike cartoon Britney, she seems to have come out of that crazy period relatively unharmed. Anyway, celebrity meltdowns weren't the only thing they've predicted with a 100% accuracy rate. These guys got political movements right down to the T, or should I say, down to the weed? Even by the standards of the show, Medicinal Fried Chicken is a particularly absurd episode of South Park. Its main plot centers around Cartman's struggle to find a KFC. When new laws make the restaurant illegal in some areas and legalize recreational marijuana, Cartman's neighborhood KFC is then replaced with a weed shop. Back then, the show's depiction of Colorado's legalization of recreational marijuana was inaccurate. But it did get approved by 2012. Only 2 years separate fiction from reality in this specific case, making this prediction noteworthy for coming true so soon after the episode aired. But this wasn't the only thing they got right in the episode. In February 2018, operational issues compelled KFC to temporarily close more than 75% of its UK locations, depriving customers of the fried chicken they so desperately craved for. Some people chose more drastic ways to cope, purchasing KFC buckets on eBay for more than $100 each. Instead of just waiting for the company to reopen, or simply frying their own chicken. Unbelievably, South Park predicted the concept of an underground KFC market in 2010 as a part of the episode's primary plot. So, we know that after marijuana becomes legal, a medical weed dispensary temporarily replaces the neighborhood KFC in South Park, which pissed the locals off. Fans of the program weren't surprised to see that Cartman takes advantage of this situation by reselling KFC buckets on the underground market. The fried chicken black market featured in the show was entirely the creation of writer Trey Parker. 8 whole years before life imitated art. The main plot itself was inspired by a real-world marijuana shop in Los Angeles that was formerly a KFC. Neat. Hang on to your chicken wings, though, because they got a certain political outrage right, too. Remember the episode Chef Goes Nanners? The main plot of this episode is a very somber one, an issue that's only grown more and more since the 2020s. It revolves around a disagreement about the town's horrendously racist flag, with some saying it should be changed and others saying it should be kept for historical purposes. On October 18, 2017, attorneys for Mississippi, the last state in the country to use racist iconography, testified before the U.S. Supreme Court that the battle emblem didn't violate anyone's civil rights and would continue to be displayed on the flag in the face of a lawsuit calling for its removal. In the episode, the show highlighted the continuous struggle to get rid of what many people consider to be a racist symbol. So, it's interesting to see how South Park foresaw that, and that at least in Mississippi, demonstrations against the Confederate symbol would finally fail. There was also a movement to have certain sports teams' names changed, and to remove mascots that were deemed offensive. Ring a bell? If you remember, the Cleveland Indians and the Washington Redskins switched to new names, the Cleveland Guardians and the Washington Commanders, respectively. Changes that were somewhat reminiscent of those made by the end of the Chef Goes Nanners episode. I really don't know how the writers do it, but they even got Trump's tweet threats on lock. Although Donald Trump had been a frequent Twitter user for years before his victory in the 2016 presidential election, this particular scenario is way too specific to happen by chance. The episode Put It Down featured Mr. Garrison tweeting a scathing message to Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, and challenges him to destroy the town of South Park in order to get revenge on Tweek. And even though Trump had already been tweeting about the situation in the week before the episode, which served as the inspiration, he tweeted a threat just days after it aired. In it, Trump said that North Korea wouldn't be around for much longer, echoing Garrison's thoughts. Now, either the former president was taking notes, or the writers have a spy who has their ears and eyes everywhere. Or they're just a bunch of geniuses who've got some sort of superpowers. By the way, remember when Ricky Martin came out as gay? Yep, they predicted that too, a whole 10 years in advance. In Season 3, Episode 8, we see Stan being forced to socialize with children like Pip and Butters at a party he doesn't want to be at. At the same time, Randy and another parent named Gerald share a unique experience in a hot tub. Later, Randy overhears two people discussing a person's sexual orientation. Even though Randy initially believes they're discussing him, it turns out they were discussing Puerto Rican singer Ricky Martin. The fact that he's gay, in particular, who would have thunk that in 2010, more than 10 years after the show aired, Ricky Martin did finally come out. making a public declaration of his sexual orientation. I call it witchcraft. So, from airing an episode in which Ricky Martin comes out a whole decade before he publicly revealed it, to predicting the way Osama bin Laden would die 7 months before it actually happened. These were some of South Park's predictions that came true.